Good morning. Good morning, my beautiful friends. Happy awesome Saturday. It is the Sabbath. It is the day of rest. It is the seventh day. We are here today to to kind of go once again to explore the more spiritual underpinnings of the wake up call. Thank you guys so much for being here. Good morning, Lane. Good morning, Tony. Great to see you guys on the show today. Anyways, yeah, it is awesome Saturday. This is a day when we hang out with awesome people, we do awesome things, we are in awesome places, we eat awesome food, and we talk about more of the yeah, indeed, Tony, a good day to get some ass. And today we are talking about the war within us. So here's the thing. I mean, Saturday might be awesome, right? And Saturday is awesome. There are a lot of not particularly awesome things happening in the world right now, and I wanted to really just touch on the topic of war because war is something that is being discussed quite a bit in the media, and I think a lot of people don't really understand what it is or why it is so prevalent when it happens. And so I just want to open up this discussion with a very famous Margaret Thatcher quote. So, Margaret Thatcher was the Prime Minister of Great Britain. And she said, people have friends, nations have interests. And it's a very profound thing. When I heard it, it really has stuck with me because she's absolutely right. Like, I have friends. You are my friend. I hope that I am your friend. If you need something, I'm here for you. If I need something, I would hope that you would be there for me. Nations, on the other hand, don't have friends. Nations have interests, which means that when the nations align in a particular way, then they are able to be aligned with each other or allied with each other. When their interests change, the same nations that could be at peace with each other one day would be at war with each other the next day. And the people, the individual people inside of these nations, those people, they didn't change. Nothing changed about these people. What changed was that the nation that they represent, the interests, the interests of the nation that they represent changed. And so we have to understand that war is never fought for the sake of the soldier. War is fought for the aims of the institutions that support the soldier. It's fought for the aims of the institutions that lead nations. And so we have to ask ourselves, if war is in the interest of the state, why does it have to be marketed to the people? Because don't the people comprise the state? And of course the people comprise the states. Like I am a member of the United States of America. Therefore, when the United States of America has interests, then of course part of these interests are my interests as well. But war is not born in my heart. I've never woken up one morning and said, "Oh, I should definitely start a war. I should go to war. I should support a war." It's never happened in my entire life. I've always been more of a peace-loving person. Uh, War is sold to us, and it is sold to our hearts. The people who sell us war appeal to our patriotism. They appeal to us helping our allies out. They appeal to our more base motivations, our desire to be heroes, our desire to be supportive, our desire to be a cooperative component in whatever direction that our nation is moving in. And so, in all wars, because once again, nations have interests, in all wars, somebody is profiting from it. There would be no war if there was no profit in war. War is very profitable. And not just profitable in the terms of money, because as we discussed last week, money is this social fiction. I'm talking about profitable in the terms of somebody or some group's interests are being furthered from the existence of war. So certain people are becoming more powerful. Certain interests are being furthered. Certain groups are receiving some kind of preferential treatment. The cost for this, of course, is that somebody else has to bleed. Somebody else has to die. In order for one group to be successful, another group must be unsuccessful because war is a zero sum game. There must be a winner. There must be a loser. And so war has to be marketed as a glorious thing, and indeed it is. It is marketed as a glorious thing. Um, Orson Welles wrote an essay once about how, in the absence of war, we have to have professional sports. So when there isn't a well publicized war on, we have to have professional sports. He predicted that organizations like the NFL or Major League Baseball would become very powerful in the post-war years. He was talking about after World War I, and he said that the reason is because it gives people a sense of a team to be on and an enemy to fight. In fact, if you've ever watched a professional football game in the past, I don't know, 20 years, you'll notice that the armed forces, um, they feature very prominently in this football game. And so there's always the football game, and then of course there's always the jets that are flying over it, the military jets flying over it, and the military men and women who are being honored for one reason or another, um, in order, just as a part of the festivities. And of course, the parallels are so very obvious. And the folks who are interested in getting the ball from one side of the field to the other side of the field represent an army. And so, people are coming to watch this spectacle of these two armies fighting in a non-lethal way. But just the passion is there. The passion is the same. And so consequently, it is something it is a marketing tool. And so war is marketed as something where we can achieve honor, or if honor isn't our thing, at the very least we can do our duty. We can be patriotic. We can support our country, and these things are weaponized, and they glamorize something which is, to those who have experienced it, deeply horrific, deeply disturbing. I've never met anybody who was a member in an active war zone, or who visited an active war zone, or who served in an active war zone, who wasn't irretrievably damaged from the experience, both from what they saw, also from what they did. These people are haunted by this because the rules of war are different than the rules of peace, and things which happen in our peacetime lives, or things that would never happen in our peacetime lives, happen all the time during war. And so there's this contrast, there's this dichotomy between war movies, which are always seen as, of course, our side is going to win. Whoever our side is of course going to win the war movie, uh, and real battlefield trauma, which I've been studying quite a bit because I've just been doing a really deep dive into trauma lately, and of course a lot of the techniques which have been used to help us understand the trauma that happens in things like child abuse. These techniques were studied originally from soldiers returning from war. And so, we have things, PTSD is a diagnosis that was born of wartime. Veteran suicide rates, 27 a day as of the last count. This testifies that the reality of what these people go through is far from that heroic dream. It's far from that from that wonderful, honorable thing. And so we have to understand that no child grows up and dreams that one day they're going to get older and kill strangers. Uh, that's something that we're taught to cheer for later on in life. Children, at the same time, are not immune from the propaganda of war, because things like first-person shooter video games glamorize it. One of the most popular is called Call of Duty, called the Call of Duty series, and there's that word, duty, right? Um, Call of Duty is a war simulator. It's a first-person shooter where you play as a military member, and you go out and you kill members of other militaries. Like, that's what you do in this video game. And of course, unlike life, in video games, when you lose and you get killed, you just start a new game and play again and kill another 1,000 people before eventually somebody takes you out. So, since war itself is something that is very different than what it's marketed as, we have to understand that the enemy is also an illusion. So the enemy, the people that we fight against in war, is divinity in disguise, because as God is one, separation is an illusion, which means that the people that we love and the people that we hate are also made in the image and likeness of God. And so whether they are friends or enemies matters not. The fact is that they share that spark of divinity. They share that the possession of a soul. And so one of the things about war that I've noticed is that the soldiers on both sides of the war, and I'm talking about the people who are actually going and doing the dirty work of the war, soldiers on both sides of the war are oftentimes very young. I mean, these are teenagers or just barely. These folks are recruited right out of high school to go do this job. They're young, they're scared, and they're very easily spiritually manipulated. It's very easy to replace somebody's spiritual compass with some patriotism to get them to go out and do something that is really, really awful. And so, when we train these kids and then we give them a uniform and we create a psychological divide that justifies things that they would never do back in their hometowns. But that doesn't change the fact that everybody in the conflict has a soul. It doesn't change the fact that everybody in the conflict was made in the image and likeness of God. It doesn't change that. All that it changes is that one side wears one uniform and another side wears another uniform, and when you see the people in the other uniform, you know they're going to kill you, so you kill them first. But think about how illusory this is. So during World War I, there was a very famous Christmas truce. So during World War I, in the most awful parts of the trench warfare that happened, we're talking, just terrible, terrible things that occurred during that trench warfare, chemical weapons and mustard gas and hand-to-hand combat, where people in different uniforms were killing each other with their bare hands. And yet, on Christmas Day in 1914, the two sides called a truce, met in the middle of no man's land, and played a game of soccer. And they, these people who previously had been killing each other, got together, played a peaceful game, had a meal, shared a meal together, went right back to their trenches, and then the next day were off to killing each other again. If that doesn't tell us the true nature of war, I don't know what does. Because how can we share joy with our neighbors one day and then kill them the next day, except that we're being manipulated? And so the enemy is not the person across us from the battlefield. The enemy is the system that convinces us that they're less human than we are, and that convinces them that we are less human than they are. And we have to look at this system. We have to look at, well, who is perpetuating this system and why? The fact is that war always has a winner, it always has a loser, and it always has a spiritual cost for both sides on the conflict. And so war leaves, as the very famous quote says, war leaves invisible scars. Soldiers come back from war not with the glory and the heroism that they thought that they would attain. They come back with shame and rage and confusion and regret. And so we talk about the moral injury that occurs here, the internal fractures that come when we violate our core values. Most people wouldn't say that their core value is to kill their enemies, although probably most people fantasize at least a little bit about killing their enemies. I found that fewer people have a taste for real violence when it comes to them than have taste for the violence that people entertain in our heads about what we would do to the people who have set themselves against us. And so we train these people, we train these soldiers to kill, and then we wonder why they come home broken. The trauma that they experience is their souls trying to speak. Their souls saying, hey, something happened that was so far against everything that I stand for that I'm just in shock. So we have to ask ourselves, especially today on the Sabbath, it's that it's that the Sabbath itself is a day for rest. It's a day for wholeness. It's not a day for destruction. And peace is not a passive thing. So peace is a daily discipline. The same way that we have to be disciplined for war, we must also be disciplined for peace. And so when we really look at it in our own lives, of course, all of us are fighting wars with ourselves. We're all fighting our own battles every single day. And in order for us to experience that peace, that inner peace that exists inside of us, we have to be very disciplined to maintain it. And the way that we do that is with forgiveness, with restraint. We do it by choosing dialogue, choosing communications. These are very radical acts in a war-sick world. So there's been so much talk about war and is the war justified, and why is it justified if it's justified, and why should we do it or why shouldn't we do it? Um, and in the end, nothing that I say is going to make war start or stop. War has been going on for my entire lifetime. There hasn't been a moment in my entire lifetime when the United States wasn't at war with somebody. And yet war is like a fire, and it burns everything, and it burns the one who lit it too. It burns all those who participate, and it burns those who are standing on the side. And whereas peace, that wonderful thing that we all would love to experience for ourselves, even as we glorify war, peace is like water. Peace, it seems very soft, it seems very malleable, and yet water wears down stone. And so, in the end, you know, there's a story about in the Bible about rebuilding the wall of Jerusalem. So essentially, this he was the assistant to a king, but essentially became one of the great prophets of the original state of Israel. And so he basically saw that the walls of Jerusalem had been torn down and said, "I'm going to go rebuild these walls." And so he talked to the king, and at the time he said, "Hey, I'm going to go. I would like permission to go rebuild these walls." He knew that there would be opposition to rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem, and so he instructed all of the laborers who were doing the work to carry a stone in one hand and to carry a sword in the other. And I think that this is a tremendous metaphor. When we are building anything, we have to carry a stone in one hand and a sword in the other hand, because whatever it is that we are building, there will be people who choose to come up against us. And so when war comes to us, and war may come to us, in those moments we have to respond with that sorrow. We have to respond with caution. We have to respond with defense of life. But when we go to war, when we support war, when we cheer war on, when we vote for war, when we justify war, or when we remain indifferent to war, then we choose participation in war. And our spirit is never ever neutral. And so we have to either sanctify life or we participate in the destruction of life. There is no in between. So we can't always stop war from coming. We can't stop the nations that we are a part of from being, from choosing war occasionally, or in the case of the United States, perpetually. We can decide whether or not we're going to meet that war with a sword, or whether we're going to meet that war with an outstretched hand. How is it that we are going to meet it? How is it that we personally are going to react or respond to these much larger social situations that we have no control over? I can't decide whether or not the United States gets involved in the war between Israel and Iran that's currently happening. I can't make that choice. I can decide how much I'm going to support it, and how much I'm going to participate in it, and what exactly I'm going to feel about it. I can decide that, and in the end, I always choose peace for myself to the best of my ability. So, what can we do in order to choose that peace for ourselves? The first thing we can do is we can just question whatever the narrative is, and we have to be mindful of how the media frames whatever the conflict is. And so we have to ask ourselves, well, who benefits from it? How is my nation benefiting from it? Who gets hurt by it? We have to honor life, and especially the lives of those who have been touched by war. We pray for the veterans. We pray for the victims too. We don't romanticize violence. There's nothing romantic about violence. And in the end, we also just kind of keep the Sabbath in a world that contains war. And we live in a way that nurtures peace with our words, with our actions, with our spending, with our advocacy, with the ideas that we put out into the world. Ultimately, it is on the individual to reach out across ideological enemy lines and make sure that we are always operating with as much compassion as possible. We might not be able to choose whether our nation goes to war. We might not be able to choose if we participate in it. There's plenty of people who wear uniforms in the United States right now who are going to go to whatever war they're assigned to because that is their job. They don't have a choice to say yes or no about going to an action to a live combat zone. They just go. And we have to have compassion for these people in the same way that we have compassion for the people who are wearing other uniforms who also really don't have a choice in the matter. We do have a choice in the matter, though, and we have a choice about how we think about it and what we think about it. And in the end, that is all the power in the world. My beautiful friends, it was kind of a heavier, awesome Saturday service today. It is nevertheless awesome Saturday, so let's go hang out with awesome people. Let's go do awesome things. Let's be in awesome places. Let's eat awesome food, and let's just remember that that the people who are the other people in this world who are also sharing the Sabbath with us, these are also human beings made in the image and likeness of God, and that whether they wear the same uniform as us or a different uniform, that we all share that spark of divinity. I'll talk to you all on Monday at 9 a.m. We'll be back with the wake up call of Maui Paul coming back next week. I've enjoyed my my week off sleeping, and I will talk to everybody on Monday at 9 a.m. Until then, I love you. I care about you. I appreciate you. I think that you're amazing, and I sincerely hope that whatever war is happening inside of you right now, that you are able to come to terms with it and come into peace. I love everybody, and I'll talk to you all on Monday at 9 a.m. Until then, aloha from paradise.